Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Also, the about 60 people online, people that could not travel to Estonia but staying at home. Also, good morning to all of you. Bonjour. You've signed up for the session Labor Market Analysis for Early Identification of Skills Shortages and Skills Needs. There's a lot of topics already in this theme, and in the next good 1.5 hours we will be dealing with these things. And it would be nice that if you here, the audience and the people at home, would leave the session with a feeling of what possibilities does a labor market information system have. What analysis do our experts use for what? And Marco said this morning, the expert from the Potsdam University, he said, data, better data helps a lot. So let's see what better data are and what data is used in the public employment services. Also, what labor market indicators are of interest and how to avoid an information overload. Michel will say something on the indicators, and I sometimes have to think when I read indicators and statistics. Somebody said, I think it was Mark Twain, that there's 3 kinds of lies. There are lies, there are damned lies, and there are statistics. And I only believe the statistics that I forged myself. So that's the second thing. The third thing is also how to make supply and demand on the labor market transparent and use the information on how to upskill job seekers. We will hear something on that. I think Hind and Gerardo will say something on that, and also on labor market trends. For me personally, with what I do in my job, that's very important. Labor market trends and also what impacts these trends have on the skills. We will focus on these 4 things. And I like to introduce the experts that we have this morning. First of all, on the right-hand side, we have Michel van Smoorenburg. Michel van Smoorenburg from the Netherlands, from the UWV, the Netherlands. Give him a big hand of applause, please. We have online, I don't know if we have Hind already, the picture of Hind online, but we have Hind, Mrs. Hind Boubia from Morocco, from ANAPEC, who's there. Hind, good morning, we can see you, very nice. I'm very pleased that we have Mr. Gerardo Gutiérrez Ardoy. I'm especially pleased that you could make it as a general director of SEPE, the public employment service in Spain. That's really cool that you're there. Good morning. Big hand of applause, please. Yeah, and then we have Mr. Anders Ljungberg from the Swedish Public Employment Service. Please give him a hand of applause. We have at the chat sitting over there, I've organized this session with you together. Dr. Elina Kallas, expert from the Skills Development and Career Services Department here in Estonia. And my name's Michael van der Camen. I work in the International Relations Department in the Public Employment Service in Germany. Thank you very much. So, what shall I say? You know, I've prepared two Slido polls for you. We will start with the poll in just a second. You can open the Slido app, and then you will see the question, and we will finish with the Slido app. And before we go to the Slido app, or before you answer the question, I would like to start. I already said the first thing is the labor market information system and the topics you can put all in there and the indicators. I think that everybody knows what a labor market information system is, but the public employment services use them in a different way. So my colleagues, I'm not the expert on the labor market information system. You are. And Michel is also, but my colleagues already said a couple of years ago that the labor market information system is a system of distribution of knowledge. You distribute knowledge. And they said also that if you use this knowledge, then international harmonized indicators are better than official statistics. I already told you, lies and statistics. But they are still better than administrative records, and they're even better than partial information. For example, reports, data supplied by external partners, that sort of thing. That's what they said. Now, I would like to know from you, and I know that the people at home, about 60 people at home, they see the slide a bit later than we have here, but I think this minute is already enough. We have a warm-up activity, and I would like you, I don't see the poll up here, but I know what the question is. Oh, we have it there, yeah. I would like you to mark 2 aspects that should definitely be included in a labor market information system. You can put 60 things in there, you can put 100 things in there, but 2 things from your perspective, I would like to know what would be for you very important. Is it an overview of the local economy? Is for your public employment service future labor trends important, business growth and decline, information on jobs and sectors, and skills and qualifications? Let's see. We'll give you half a minute of time so you can get seated, and then we will see what the result will be. Michel, if you read these questions, before we go to the result, what would you say as an expert on the topic? What would be for you most important?
It's hard to choose between those 5 possibilities, but I think D is very important, information on jobs and sectors, and also the skills of the people in their occupations, but also outside of their occupations. And well, of course, those other 3 are also important. Business growth and decline, outflow of employees, inflow of employees. So it's really hard to choose 2 of those 5, and it depends on the specific purpose. It depends on the client group. So sometimes you need information on jobs and sectors for certain purposes, and for other purposes you need other information.
All right, okay. Anders, you will say something later on greening the economy. From these 5, which 2 would you say?
It's quite difficult, because I think that all 5 are very important.
Yes.
And should be a part of a labor market information. But I could say that in Sweden now, we try even more than before to be a so-called expert agency. We want to be an expert on the labor market in Sweden. That means that we have to be very good on future labor trends, and we also have to be very good on skills and qualifications if we want to be that expert authority agency that the different actors listen to and also use that information to find good solutions.
Okay, well, let's see how you've voted, and also the people at home, if we can see the results. Oh, right, look at that. On number 1, we have a shared first position, information on jobs and sectors. Yeah, all right, okay. And skills and qualifications. And there you see already that skills and qualifications is very important. And we heard that already in the past couple of days, that for the public employment services, they want to have more information on skills. For me personally, from a German point of view, that's very interesting, because in the past years, we always had a very high, how do you say that? We watched the recognition of qualifications and not so much the skills. And I know, because I'm Dutch, that the Dutch society and Dutch employers already were looking at skills perhaps 20 years ago, that sort of thing. So that's very good. Okay. 40% the future labor trends. Okay, an overview of the local economy, 21%, and business growth and decline is 12%. Okay, so that's, I would say, Elina, we have one of the results already for this session. Skills and qualification, very important, and information on jobs and sectors. Okay, this should set the scene for this session. And first of all, I would like to ask Michel to say something on the indicators. And the question you asked already this morning, Marco, of the University in Potsdam, sets the scene already a bit on your expertise. So please try to be a bit general, and also for the Public Employment Service that we understand what you say. That would be perfect. Thank you very much, Michel.
Yes, will be that difficult. Michael and Michael must be a good combination, isn't
yes.
it? Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say I'm very glad to be here in Tallinn and in Estonia. Also, I must say I missed King's Day yesterday. That's kind of a problem. But I'm really glad to be here, and I've met lovely people already in Estonia and other members of the network, so that's great. I'll start a presentation. It's about labor market information. Well, I hope I will not lie about this. There are lies, but there is also a need for evidence-based working. And you need figures, you need statistics, you need indicators to say something about this labor market. And well, I have a lot of information about this, but first of all, I want to introduce a bit of the WWC, the PES organization. Next slide, please. We have 5 divisions. One of them is the employment division, and I'm part of the employment division, the department labor market information. We work with 45 employees spread out over the Netherlands. 20 of them work in the regions, the 35 regions in the Netherlands, and those other 25 work at the headquarters, and I'm one of them. We provide 1.2 million of benefits to people with an unemployment benefit, disability benefit, or a benefit for sickness. And we work with 22,000 employees at the UWC. What's the purpose of labor market information? There was a time that it was mainly aimed at policy, for policy reasons. But nowadays, because the labor market information becomes better and better, we improved it. We use this information for job seekers, for employers, and also for students and their counselors. That's quite new. We started with that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, with the graduate tracking project, which I will tell about. In summary, you could say there is a need for valid, reliable, specific, targeted, and also up-to-date labor market indicators. And the weight of the criteria vary a bit along the purpose. So, for example, for job seekers, it's very important to have up-to-date labor market information because they want to find a job tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But for students, for example, there's a long-term perspective. You need information which is still reliable after 5 years from now, when they finished their subject at school. So you need robust information, you need reliable information. So there are other criteria important for different types of purposes. Well, I will tell you about 4 methods and indicators we use in the Netherlands. Forecasting, tension indicator, related occupations with better chances, and the labor market position by graduate tracking. And as the slide shows, we work together with a lot of research institutes and universities. Sometimes the research institutes are associated with the universities. And together we develop indicators. And I will explain those 4 methods briefly. For the forecasting project, we do it together with 4 ministries and other parties, and we pay about 1/6 of the total amount of money. We heavily lean on the Research Center for Education and Labor Market, University of Maastricht. It's a very sophisticated model. They also work together with the Cambridge Econometrics for CDFOP. They make forecasts for CDFOP European-wide and also for the Netherlands. It's econometric modeling. They have models for expansion demand, substitution demand, and the inflow of new school leavers. For example, the technological progress is incorporated in the expansion demand, and the demographic changes is incorporated in the replacement demand. People leave the labor market because of retirement, because of disability, because they want to look for their children, for example. That's replacement demand. And every component has its own econometric model. This all together, the ratio between supply and demand, this gives a tension indicator 6 years ahead. And, well, they distinguish more than 100 occupational groups and more than 100 types of study. They also have some regional information, not that many, but they have some forecasting for the 35 regions. It's a quite valid method. It's sophisticated. It's not only based on vacancies or expansion demand, so also inflow and outflow are important factors when it comes to future trends. These are the advantages, but are also disadvantages. This is a world with uncertainty. For example, the COVID crisis or Ukraine. And it's hard to deal with those major impacts in their forecasting, because every 2 years they make new forecasts, and then the world could change a bit or a lot during the Ukraine crisis or with the COVID crisis. But nevertheless, the main results are there are shortages for technicians, medical and caring workers and teachers 6 years ahead, and we use those main results. We do not use the specific results because we think with graduate tracking we have a better source. Okay, then I'll go to the next one, that's tension indicator. That's a more up-to-date indicator. It is updated 4 times a year. And that's the ratio between the number of vacancies and the number of job seekers. You have 2 important surveys, the labor force survey and the vacancies survey, but they are not detailed enough, so we chose proxies for it. For the proxy for vacancies, That's the number of online vacancies. We buy the database of a text kernel. They do web spidering. I think about 9 PES organizations in Europe use web spidering. And that's might be quite unique in the Netherlands, that we also developed a method of weighting the data and upscaling the data to make it representative for the whole number of vacancies. Because sometimes they are underrepresented. For example, the low educated are underrepresented in the number of online vacancies, and also, for example, agriculture is underrepresented, so the weight is higher. So we developed a method to get a good picture of the total number of vacancies per region and per occupational group. And besides that, we have the proxy for job seekers. This is the number of people with unemployment benefits, short-time unemployed. Not all of them, but only the short-time unemployed, because we only want to select those who are directly available to the labor market. This is an indication of the shortage, the tension on the labor market, and the graph shows nowadays, the fourth quarter of 2021, we have record level of tightness. There is a tight labor market in the Netherlands. We never had this level. 80% of the labor market, you could say, is a tight labor market. We can also distinguish this information for the 35 regions and for 140 occupational groups. For example, IT occupations, it's dark red, as you can see. So there is a shortage of IT staff. Maybe in the audience there are some people who have IT skills. Please come to the Netherlands. You are invited because we have a shortage. And the other ones are also invited.
They can also come to Germany.
Yes. They can also go to Germany, maybe Sweden, maybe Spain. On the other hand, on the right side, you see the more creative and linguistic occupations. Well, it's diverse picture. In some regions in the north, it's a slack labor market. In some regions, it's a tight labor market. And in most of the regions, the labor market is in balance. So there are pretty high regional differences, but you don't see those regional differences in the IT occupations. I come to our third method we use. It's based on the tension indicator, but also on 2 other indicators. The duration to find a job for people with an unemployment benefit, and also the number of unemployment benefits per 100 employed workers. We put those 3 indicators together to get a composite indicator, and then also we do a qualitative check on this, and then we distinguish 441 different occupations. It's a list of occupations in low demand and a list of occupations in high demand. And we use the list of occupations in low demand together with another method to determine the relatedness of occupations. It's based on historical job mobility paths. We have millions of job seekers which put their resume in our database. and we figured out what's the job mobility between occupations. And we used this information and combined that with that indicator of low-high demand to get related occupations with better chances. For example, a secretary employee has low chances to find a job, but there are some related occupations with better chances. Customer service employee, logistic employee, back office employee, planning and coordination, and ICT help desk. And we also use this kind of visuals for them. Then it's easier. It's easier. No figures, statistics, visuals, it makes it easier. So it's a matter of a quality of information, and it's a matter of communication. Then I come to the fourth one. It's about labor market position by graduate tracking. Well, you have a lot of surveys about graduates and school leavers, but we use register data. And we combine different data sources, and it is combined by the Central Bureau of Statistics. They combine the data from the Ministry of Education about the subjects the graduates had. They combine it and link it to the data of us, or the policy administration. They link it also to the tax office to get the information about incomes and wages. And they link it also to the municipalities. So we have the personal characteristics of the people. So you get a huge database of registered data. And we use this, well, to compare the different types of study, the subjects. More than 100 VET studies at different levels, level 2, 3, 4, work-based and school-based. 70 master studies and 87 bachelor studies called higher vocational education in the Netherlands. We work together with CBS and also with SEO, Economic Research in Amsterdam, University of Amsterdam. 218,000 graduates annually. We almost have 100% coverage. It's a bit less for university master degrees because some of them come from abroad, and we don't know if when they work abroad, it's not in our database, but everyone who works and lives in the Netherlands are in this database. And we just pick any point in time. We could choose 2 years after or 3 years after. We took 1.5 year after and 10 years after. So we have the entry position and 10 years after graduating. And we also could detect career perspectives of them. And these are the main conclusions. It's a composite indicator, 4 different variables: wages, hourly wages, annual income, time to find a substantial job, and a permanent contract, all together, the labor market position. And we see large differences between the types of study. For example, the time to find a substantial job, this is the median. It varies from 1 month for medicine studies to 26 months for literature. We see large differences between types of study. It also has long-term effects. Because of the time, I don't have the time to show the results after 10 years, but there is a very high correlation between the entry position and the labor market position 10 years later. So the impact of the type of study is very, very large. And we think we could use this information for professionals at schools and informing students on the long run. For example, we have rankings. We made rankings. This is for the graduates from a university master. On the left side, the most successful types of study: accounting, econometrics, dentistry. On the right side, archaeology, literature and arts. So we rank this. This is for communication reasons, and when they want to know more, they can read the report and use the tools. But these rankings, are made for communication reasons. I come to my conclusions. There's a need for valid, reliable, specific, targeted, and also up-to-date labor market indicators. It's not necessary all the time to have the most up-to-date labor market information. Also, the validity and the reliability of the information is important, we think. Forecasting is a good thing, but not always reliable enough and specific enough. So you can use it, but we think you could better also use graduate tracking to get more specific information, more reliable information. I recommend to invest in high-quality indicators and work together with research institutes to develop these indicators. You probably have a high rate of return on this. And target the information to employers, to policymakers, to job seekers, to professionals to avoid information overload. And I would conclude the golden rule to be effective is the quality of LMI times the quality of communication. Without the right communication, the information is worthless. But you can have a lot of marketing and communication, but the indicators are not reliable or not valid, then it's also worthless. So it's the combination. I hope this was effective for you. And I'm looking forward for the questions from the audience. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Michel. I think it was a very interesting presentation. One of the core, so to say, topics was that you use all this information. You used to inform your board of the organization, but you say, the trend is now already since several years to use this information for all the, I would say, labor market partners, for job seekers. You said something on the starting position on the labor market, which is very strong. I mean, you don't have to go to the labor market, to the local office. You can do it all online, where to start, etc. Yes. In which region you have best positions, but also the tension indicators. Very good, I think, for employers also. So that is something that we can learn. Quick question. How do you avoid an information overload? Do you know what your partners, your customers are looking for?
Yes, good question. That's a real risk to have information overload. Important is to target the information to the customer groups. Mm-hmm. So we don't give all this information to all the customer groups, but we target. We give the students not the information about the tension indicator, but the labor market position. Or for job seekers, we don't provide information about general labor market trends. The unemployment is low or high. Doesn't matter for them. They want what are the occupations in high demand, what are the occupations in low demand. So we dedicate the information, that's one thing. Second thing, tools. Mm-hmm. To pick out the information you want, to select the information. I'm a secretary employee. I want the information of a secretary employee. I choose it. And then, oh, okay, these are the related occupations.
Yes. Anders is already nodding. I think you have a similar system in place in Sweden.
Yeah, and we also try to launch different tools on the websites. As online, it's free of use, and that you can, by different questions, you get information that is more suitable for you. Mm-hmm. So we want it to be freely and open available for as many as possible.
Very good. Okay. I have a look at Elina. I don't know if first questions already come in. You not know. That's absolutely fine. Thank you, Michel. And then I would like to give the word. Yes, give him a round of applause. He did well. To Hind Boubia from ANAPEC. She's there online. You've already seen her. I think Hind will present in French. That gives us the time for the English-spoken people to set up the headsets. And well, yes, Hind Boubia. Hind is head of the prospecting and marketing unit within ANAPEC. And she also mentioned, you can also read that online, that the main recent achievements of her divisions are the reorganization of the commercial activity of the agency, and also through a new digital-based and integrated system. So let's see what she has to say on that, and she always also say something on the trends in Morocco. Hind, if you can hear us, if you can see us, the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup. Oui, mesdames et messieurs les directeurs et représentants des services publics de l'emploi.
Suur tänu.
Bonjour. J'ai le plaisir d'être
honorable representatives of labor market organizations. I'm very honored to be with you today, represent ANAPEC. And of course, I will be speaking about how to improve our choice of services. I will quickly speak about what ANAPEC is, what our objectives are, and then I will delve into the topic at hand. So ANAPEC is a national tool for the state to be able to adapt its labor market services quickly and reconciliate competences and employment. It is the National Moroccan Agency of Promotion of Employment and Competences. We started in 2001, and our governing agency is the Ministry of Economics. We have a management board representing all the 14 departments, territorial units of Morocco. Our task list is varied. We are, of course, focused on our clients. Our clients involve job seekers, both local and international enterprises, and our job is to match supply and demand in the labor market with the final objective of offering incentives for finding a better match. We counsel people, help them integrate into the labor market. We finance different retraining and training programs, and as far as program management is concerned, we get involved in the management of any program in the phase of its conception. We cooperate with different institutions. And also provide to governing bodies periodic information on the functioning of the labor market and the availability of competences. Currently, we have 88 bureaus or agencies, including 12 at universities, which is a demonstration of the fact that we have managed to expand our client bases. Our databases include more than 1 million registered clients. During the last 10 years, we have been able to find placements for 950,000 people. 17,500 people benefit annually from our mobility and employability services. We have about 97,000 job opportunities available, and we have also managed to help more than 2,000 people in creating their own enterprises. Our vision of our future is as follows. We believe that we need to be an agency based on involvement. We have to be close to people, available at all geographical locations, at all universities, responsive to the needs of all different job seeker groups as well as other client groups. Now, moving on to the specific topic of today, how do we analyze our labor market? We have created an integrated approach. Our objective is to provide proven, evidence-based and constantly evolving platform to improve matching or reconciliation of people with the jobs. We have, of course, taken into account that our main broad aim is to improve employment, increase employment in the field of employment as well as training and competences. We want to find out as many information as we can, and we also try to be involved in the preparation of programs as much as possible. Active labor market measures are part of our mandate, and we of course provide or have opportunities that are digital and based on artificial intelligence. Considering all of this, we have created our own system. We have a collection of different tools. We conducted a survey among employers during the process of conceiving those tools, and we have kept upgrading the platform ever since. We also have an AI-based digital monitoring tool. We are using different internet-based support services or providing them, and all of this has allowed us to optimize ANAPEC's activities as well as receive better quality information on our labor market. It is very important for us to involve our clients through surveys. Our approach is sector-based, which means that we cooperate with different sectoral organizations and also different professional associations. We can offer them services based on their needs and their specificities. Now, let's start at the beginning. In 2007, ANAPEC conducted a survey among companies before that, we had been focusing on job seekers. But since 2007, we have been looking into what kind of people the employers want to hire in the midterm and long-term perspective, and whether there are people with the corresponding competences available in the market. Introduction of digital tools has made this much simpler. The introduction of digital tools was also extremely necessary in the context of the pandemic. Digital tools also help us to save costs, and actually they are more inclusive vis-à-vis companies, so the companies have a wider array of possibilities for participating. We have collected a lot of data, we have analyzed them, and thanks to our digital tools, we have managed to improve the quality of our services and also made the service more topical or more timely.
De l'ANAPEC, de l'activité de l'ANAPEC, surtout pour tout ce qui est attrait à la conception de la carte de formation qualifiante, qui constitue pour l'ANAPEC déjà
what we are talking here about is very much related to reskilling of people who have difficulties in finding jobs based on their current competences. We also finance those reskilling trainings, and our digital tools also allow us to compare regions and offer specialized support measures and training programs based on the needs of the particular geographical regions. Now, moving on to the second aspect of our technological solution, artificial intelligence. Our platform allows us to collect data and also make the data available online. We are using web scraping methodology. It allows us to consolidate different information sources and identify the current trends. It also allows us to forecast the future. What kind of people will be in demand in a specific sector, in a specific geographical region, in a specific domain of jobs within a few years. So this allows us to have a better view of what is happening in the Moroccan labor market. We are using different technologies in our platform. We are using big data, business intelligence. As I said, one of our major information sources are employment offers available across different platforms, and we are also using web scraping as a technology to collect information. And all of this, again, with the aim of understanding the specific demand for competences in the labor market. The third aspect of our information system has to do with our support services. This support service, Accompaniment Pro or Muababa Pro, this is directed at companies. We want to find out the specific needs of companies. We use different information collection tools. We conduct phone communication. And a list of other technological tools to make our counselors better aware of the needs and trends in the labor market. So for us, this is a process of getting to know the needs of the labor market. Specifically, we do this, for example, by analyzing the job descriptions in job advertisements. Another tool that we use are opinion polls, questionnaires carried out either by ANAPEC ourselves or our partners in cooperation with us. We have a lot of partnership relations with different local and international organizations, and once again, our main target is finding out the needs of the labor market and the competences that are in demand in the labor market. We have carried out 2 surveys in cooperation with the ILO in the field of confectionery.
Réduire le gap entre l'offre et la demande sur le marché de l'emploi pour ces 2 secteurs. Et nous avons piloté
analyzed the supply and demand of workforce in the sector.
Pour des secteurs qui ont connu
And we also conducted a survey on the impact of the COVID crisis on the sector, specifically in the tourism sector, in the catering sector. And based on this information, we have tried to find different, say, development paths for those companies in the context of Corona. Of course, we are very much interested in maintaining employment also in the context of the Corona crisis, for example, through requalification training. And the last aspect that I would like to touch upon is the sector-based approach. Our approach should sort of work as a bridge that connects the different partnerships between ourselves and different sectoral organizations. We are constantly monitoring training needs, requalification needs, the type of job seekers hired. We have training programs financed by ANAPEC itself, and here different professional organizations are the beneficiaries of the sector-based support measures. The sector-based approach is the approach that allows us to understand the best needs of specific sectors, differences between sectors, and also regional differences between different sectors. We want to be a good partner for the organizations as well as improve the employability of our workforce.
Thank you very much, Hind. I needed to listen to the English translation to the end, so that's why a couple of seconds. Thank you very much. That was very interesting. I don't know if there are any questions in between from the audience and also from the chat. I'm having a look at the watch. Then I will come with yes. Third table. Thank you, Hind. It's coming.
Oui, bonjour, François Dumorat de l'Organisation internationale du travail. En fait, ma question est...
Tänu, mina olen François Dumorat ILO-st.
Parce que les deux présentations, je trouve, sont très complémentaires.
Thank you. I am François Dumorat from ILO, and I have a question to both speakers and perhaps even a bit more to the Dutch colleague. In your presentation, you spoke about measuring the tension in the labor market. You compare job offers and the registered job seekers. But we do, however, have a sort of a grey market or a shadow market. We are only basing our data here on public job offers. However, more than 50% of jobs actually change hands not publicly. So companies recruit without actually publicizing their openings. So how do you integrate this, let's say, this sheltered or invisible labor market into your analysis? Specifically in Morocco, when you are conducting surveys about what kind of people employers are looking for, or how do you integrate this sheltered invisible market, or do you also involve statistics about actual recruitment? I have an example. You spoke about secretaries, for example. This is a rather slack labor market. However, there are companies available who would want to hire a secretary, but they don't publicize the offers because secretaries are easy to find. So I hope you understand my point or my question here.
Yes, thank you very much. I think it was clear. Maybe we start with Michel. It's a valid question, the grey market, or you said the shadow market, it was translated.
Yeah. Yes.
So, yes.
That's a very good question. I think in the Netherlands we have less informal economy than in other countries in the world. That's one point. And I want to state that the ratio that's about the open vacancies, not the flow of vacancies, but the open vacancies compared to the open number of job seekers. So it's a certain point in time. And with web spidering, we did some calculations about that, and the database of text kernel, where we rely on, they claim that they have more than 95% of the open vacancies. So we miss 5%. It's not, for example, ICT, we almost have 99%. For agriculture, we only have 40 or 50%. We weight the data. So for ICT, you get only 1% more, but for agriculture, we double the number. So we weight the data to get it representative.
Yes, thank you, Michel. Hind, would you like to respond on that as well? I noticed that you also said that you are using web scraping and do not only use surveys, huh? So perhaps, yeah? Go ahead.
Oui, effectivement, parce que du moment qu'il y a plusieurs informations.
Yes, indeed. If we have different information, then of course we need to seek to make it as precise as possible. We know that there is the open market, and then there's the sort of invisible market that we do not see. We do have this kind of integrated additional mechanism. So first of all, publicized jobs, and then on the other hand we have this invisible market. We try to involve these data as well. We are cooperating with recruitment agencies and employees. I must say our partnerships are really very wide, and we do take in all kinds of different employment providers by categories. So our objective is to get an overview of all the offers, regardless of whether they have been made public or not. So that is what we were actually thinking about when creating our system. So we have this input of information from different sources, as well as the results of the service and questionnaires sent to employers, as well as ANAPEC's own research.
All right, thank you very much, Hind. Further question, Australia.
Thank you. Michel, with the impact of the type of study, the left and the right, I'm an arts graduate on that side, by the way, is that consistent? You said you looked at it over many years. Is that gap remaining, or is it getting smaller, and ICT in particular of interest? Just to qualify that a little bit, because employers tell us they don't care about a degree in that industry anymore. They just do a coding test. They just want to make sure someone can code fast, let alone whether they've got a university degree. And other sectors telling us similar stuff about bachelor degrees.
Maybe in a tight market, that's the case. But in a slack market, it's, the type of education is very important for them. We did some employer surveys. About 40% say the type of education is very important. But when there's there's not the right type of education, well, they go and look for another one and look to skills and other qualifications. So that's I think, and for a lot of occupations, it's obliged. When you are a nurse and you have to have the certificate. So, and then they ask first certificate and then the additional skills. So it's above the minimum level. And about that's also an interesting question about graduate tracking. The entry position and the position 10 years after graduating, we expected that the impact of the type of education decreases. What we saw is that for at intermediate level and at bachelor level, it almost stayed the same, and for master degrees, it even increased. So that was surprising for us as well. And when you studied medicine or accounting, and you have that real human capital dedicated, and you don't have many competitors on the labor market, and you build up your own human capital, you get trained, and salary is rising. Yeah, and then the differences between the types of education grow. They do not decrease. It was surprising for us as well.
All right, go ahead.
There's a slide that the Australian labour market data demonstrates that a level 3 and a bachelor degree are earning the same money 10 years later.
Yeah, yes.
So.
Yeah, there are some differences between the level of education, of course. Level 2, level 3, 4, 5, and on average, the higher educated earn more than the lower educated. But the differences between, within a certain level of education is very big. So, for example, archaeology or arts or literature at university level, they earn less than people with a specific type, a specific subject at intermediate level. Process operators, level 4, they earn 61,000 euro. It's better than archaeology.
That's good, yeah. You see these trends on the labor market. But I think we've got a couple of topics we can deepen into at the coffee table. Very good, this is very interesting. I would like to give Mr. Gutiérrez Ardoy now the word. I already introduced you. You are the General Secretary of the Spanish Public Employment Service. Thank you very much. You will also say something on the analysis of training needs. We did not have that topic so far, and also the development of your career guidance center. So we're already moving to operational topics of public employment services, and then Anders will finalize with the trends on the labor market. So thank you very much. You can take the floor.
Buenos días y muchas Muchas gracias. Y encantados de...
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here in Estonia, in Tallinn.
Además, en este entorno
We are treated here very well. It is a wonderful place.
se ha reinventado como un centro cultural.
Many rediscoveries in the industrial building, which has been turned into a cultural hub. And I believe that our PES should also reinvent and rediscover themselves.
En el que estamos poniendo
It is also important that we have representatives from 5 different continents.
y fundamentalmente el que tiene que ver
Some problems are common to all of us,
con decisiones adecuadas.
especially when I focus on information. We need adequate information about job seekers
Es fundamental
as well as
rigurosos, tener datos rigurosos.
qualitative information for designing of labor market policies.
Estamos reformando durante este año 2022
I work for the SEPE, Spanish State Public Employment Service. From 2002, we started with the reform. And in January 2003, we launched the new system in Spain.
trabajadores y tenemos una
We have about 8,000 employees at the moment.
17 comunidades autónomas, son como 17 Länder, como tienen
Spain is divided into 17 autonomous regions, likewise in Germany.
17 comunidades
And all these autonomous regions have competence over the national policies. So we have this state public employment service. We coordinate and manage the whole system through the policies, but actual operations are performed by regional PES.
para que también a nivel de las localidades, de los municipios,
We use the local PES
estas políticas.
in local municipalities
Bisturí
for the implementation of our labor market policies.
a la realidad territorial del terreno. Nuestra misión como
It's wise to use the scalpel in the right place for the right needs.
formativas del sistema
Our task is to identify the training needs in our system
capaces
as
de identificar las necesidades
public employment services. We should be able to identify training needs, what the labor market actually requires, and to do it in real time. In order to design training programs
sectorial como de forma transversal a lo largo de todo.
for the sectors and cross-sectoral programs and all sectors,
Es la de desarrollar un servicio integral de orientación profesional
another important task is to develop a holistic vocational education service that both job seekers as employers will have access to.
toda la vida laboral de los trabajadores y desde luego también a todas las empresas
We need information about the previous employment records, especially if we have small companies.
el talento que realmente
We must have the overview of the trends on the labor market in order to identify our needs as well.
que aporta es asegurar 10 servicios garantizados para las
It
personas
is important
y 6
to be convinced
para las empresas. Asegurarlo, darle un marco
that we do not offer 10 services for a job seeker and 6 services to our employers. This is our legal framework,
en torno a esa idea de asegurar
and the implementation of which requires adequate financing in order to be able to offer such support services to our clients. We are currently in Spain working out projects
financiado por la propia Unión Europea de la mano de los fondos de
with the help of the Next Generation EU fund We also have this resilience plan. And with the help of this, we try to identify the training needs and the appropriate tools, both for job seekers as well as employers. We create new centers of guidance and entrepreneurship and innovation employment centers, also regulation of common vocational guidance, and also have the digital tool for counseling. And this is done in cooperation of the OECD. When I talk about the training needs, we need a common method applicable to different sectors. We need a multi-channel tool that will help us in the identification of needs and will help both job seekers and employers from various sectors to find information about the conditions and training needs. And we shall launch the use of this method in the fourth quarter of 2023. At the moment, we have the network of training centers. Such centers are in all of the autonomous regions, a center per region. And at these centers, it is impossible to consolidate virtual and face-to-face methods used for counseling our job seekers. Our attempt is to combine all the systems to be used for the counseling purpose, and all good and best practices can be used by all parties in the region. We are very excited because we can now consolidate them all into one place. And this is also necessary for the social dialogue. We know that it's necessary to conduct a social dialogue of all the stakeholders. Only this will ensure sustainable results. When we talk about our activities, we develop common vocational counseling recommendations. We have added 3,000 employees for the purpose, as well as funding, because we know there is a need for the staff. Technological developments are important. But the tools function only if they are used by appropriate members of the staff. Therefore, we need more staff. And only this will give us an understanding which methods function, which don't. We have the send at tool. This is related to the databases we use. It is a digital tool which uses big data and offers information about the most appropriate services to the clients who come to the consultation of the consultant. And this allows us to prepare the schedule for the job seeker. We use the statistical information about the training needs, we are aware of the training needs on the labor market, and the demand in regions, and thus we can advise which occupations could be considered and what additional training will be needed. In June,
en los peores meses de la crisis
we are expecting the first evaluation report from the OECD, which gives us an understanding how the COVID crisis has influenced the situation. The crisis could also have a beneficial effect that boosts the development. We have reached interesting conclusions and received a lot of positive feedback about our tools. At CEPE, we have the occupation tracking system. We keep an eye on all the services and the job opportunities across the sectors, both locally as well as in a wider perspective. And now we have the tool which simplifies intercommunication between the databases. In order to guarantee transfer of valid information. On one hand, information about recruitments, which is quantitative data, but also qualitative information is important.
A las que todos los años se les pregunta cuáles son las necesidades del mercado de trabajo y cuáles
because the territories have
de desarrollo del mercado de trabajo.
Infosystem networks, and we are discussing also the expectations of the labor market at this network. Another technology-based project is LEO.
Nos permita disponer de una fuente de conocimiento del mercado de trabajo en tiempo real,
which is a tool allowing us to see in real time
información contenida en las ofertas de empleo publicadas en los distintos portales.
Information about the vacancies. We started in June 2020 and by conducting a detailed analysis in our Empleate portal.
Sabemos que en este momento incluso se están generando nuevas profesiones.
We used the vacancy postings in Empleate platform and discovered that there were certain new occupations that were not included in our classification.
Ocupaciones demandadas, localización geográfica, competencias, condiciones ofrecidas.
Very often you can find from the information about vacancies, what are the needs, where this job is located, what are the competencies required. But very often they lack this occupational classification code. Sometimes there is no such code at all, because the market is constantly evolving. So all the information is somewhere in the cloud, but there are occupations that lack the code. In this case, we give this occupation automatically a code, and by January 2021, we had a pilot project to check whether this assignment is valid. And these are the use of the natural language algorithms. And Leo is able to assign the occupation correctly up to 80%. And we use this method now for all the vacancies in the Empleate portal. And therefore, we have been able to establish a strong link between the training needs and occupations. We conduct monitoring, which allows us to identify the needs. We have processed more than 25,000 new vacancies, and the success rate has been 80%. This has allowed us to improve the vacancy system because now we have the reliable uniform codes. And it's possible, thanks to this project, to add information about work experience, prior trainings, etc. This also strengthens the position of our agency in the national system as the leader organization. We provide support to regional PES. We know better now what are the real training needs and are able to respond immediately. It is also important to have the information which are the emerging new occupations on the labor market. We also provide help to technical staff and staff of our local PES in determining the supply and demand situation. And thanks to ISCO and ESCO format, it's easier to do it and move closer to the automated processes. We use the inclusive algorithm, human-centered algorithm, because always technology has to be complemented with the human factor, because with the pure use of technology we shall not reach our objectives. We need the humans who will make decisions for the job seekers using the tools at their disposal. This is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I am open to answer them.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Michel already said, you know, there's so many indicators and for what you can use it, and you gave a couple of good examples, especially that you say you use big data. There's so much information by the clouds, and you gave very good information on how your own colleagues use this information and also to forecast the training needs. Now, we started a little bit later, so we will also finish a little bit later. I would like to finish first of all then with the labor market trends, and then we will wrap up with the questions also on your presentation. But also the trends are very much important. That would be a second example of how the data is used. Anders, the floor is yours. And you are responsible within the Swedish Public Employment Service for labor market forecasts.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me and getting this opportunity to talk about new skills related to green economy and changes now happening in the Swedish economy. As said, my name is Ljungberg and I work as acting director at the analysis department at the Public Employment Service in Sweden. As today then I will talk about the Swedish labor market and in particular new skills related to the green economy. But starting off then, just briefly, some words about the Swedish Public Employment Service, called Arbetsförmedlingen in Swedish. And we should, of course, contribute to a well-functioning of the labor market. We are a governmental agency under the remit of the Ministry of Employment. We are about 11,000 employees. We used to be a bit more previously. I think we were about 15,000 previously. But there is now a reformation, you can say, going on about the Swedish labor market policy, which means that some of the activities that used to be carried out by the PES in Sweden is now supposed to be carried out by private providers. And they are then supposed to be paid accordingly how well they function, how well they achieve results. So that's why we have decreased our employee staff and also have had a bit decreasement when it comes to our budget. And you can say also that, of course, we have this role of contributing to a well-functioning labor market, and we have three more or less main objectives. And the first one is to match job seekers with job employers. The second one is to contribute to the increasing of the employment in the long run. And the third objective is then when we do that, when we conduct our activities, we should prioritize those that are furthest removed from the labor market. And of course, then we also have some other important objectives, reduce youth unemployment, reduce long-term unemployment, and also increase employment among the newly arrived immigrants. And I should also mention that the Swedish PES is led by a Director General, and she is appointed by the government, and also our Deputy Director General is appointed by the government. But all other positions at the Public Employment Service is of our own concern, and we are then responsible for hiring and those people, so that's of our own concern. And there is also a board in Sweden that have responsibility for strategic decision making. So then, what is then happening now at the Swedish labor market and Swedish economy? Well, it's quite interesting and very positive as well that we now see very much large green investments taking place in Sweden, especially in the northern part of Sweden. We see there new and large establishments concerning areas as renewable energy, battery production, also fossil-free steel. And of course, this is very positive, as I said, and the Swedish government then tries to help to foster this expansion by investments in green transition. But, and this is a big but, the establishments now that are taking place in Sweden, the new ones, they require skilled labor, which means then that there is a competition as well for skilled labor. Because in the situation in the northern part of Sweden is that in general, the unemployment level is quite low, and also they have a aging working public age in the northern part of Sweden as well. So there is a concern, how can we supply then with labor to the northern part of Sweden during these circumstances? So, and also that at the moment in the Swedish economy is quite good. We see the unemployment levels are going down. There is many available jobs. So there is a high competition for skilled labor from several industries throughout the country. So this is quite a challenge then to try to help these investments taking part and so to foster this change. But what we also have seen from the COVID-19 situation, the pandemic, we have seen that there has been a accelerated structural change in the labor market because there has been a lot of focus on digitalization, automation, that has become more important for future work. And we think that this, of course, this was not new. It was always going on before the pandemic as well. But we believe now that during the pandemic, this trend has picked up speed and has made it a bigger structural change to the labor market. And we can also see on the Swedish labor market that there is an imbalance on the labor market and that it's increasing. Even though we have many with registered unemployed, but many of them also lack the in-demand skills. So we see also a risk for especially long-term unemployment reaching a high level and staying at that high level for a long period of time. And also, of course, this is nothing, as I said, this is not entirely new. We have seen this before as well. The emphasis on lifelong learning. I mean, previously maybe you could go and have an education, get a diploma, and then you work in that kind of that field that you've had educated yourself in throughout your life. But now there's much more probability that you need to, during your working life, you need to make some upskilling of your competence. Maybe you have to find a new diploma and so on. So this lifelong learning is very important and something that we as a PES should try to help and to contribute to. But of course, employers then, they also have a responsibility for future skill supply. And we also believe that it's very important that we have a flexible educational system that meets the requirements of the labor market. On this slide, I just want to show more in detail about this imbalance that I talked about on the Swedish labor market. Because here you see then, looking back from 2006 to 2021, you see the situation over time. And you have three lines. You see the solid line is those that have less than 6 months of unemployment. Then you have the dashed line, those with somewhere in the region with 6 to 12 months of unemployment. And then you have the dashed line was more than 12 months. And then you had dotted line, this the 6 to 12 months of unemployment. And as every other country, we were hit by the financial crisis in 2008, 2009. The unemployment level rose. And then what happened was more or less that those with more than 12 months of unemployment, the so-called long-term unemployment, they reached a higher level and stayed there over time. As you see, the yellow line, you saw that they are about, they were about 150,000 and over time as well. And then what happened after the pandemic was that we now saw that this level increased further, and now in the region of 170,000 with more than 12 months of unemployment. And actually, at one period of time during the pandemic, we maybe thought that this would go over 200,000. So this is a challenge for the Swedish labor market, and then also, of course, for the public employment service. So then what is important is to prevent and to reduce long-term unemployment. And as I showed you on the previous slide, the crisis has changed the composition of the registered unemployed, that we have now more with longer terms of unemployment that are registered at the public employment service in Sweden. And what we see as well is that we need to have education, we have to have skills development to meet increased and also the changed skills requirements. And this, as I mentioned before, has become even more important after the pandemic, this emphasis on digitalization, and that had also accelerating the structural changes on the labor market. So education is crucial. We knew that before, and we think that it's even more crucial now after the crisis. So it's quite important then to have measurements for preventing and reducing long-term unemployment, because we all know that with time in unemployment, it becomes more difficult in finding a new job, because you lose your contacts that you've had, your references that you can use of, and of course then maybe your knowledge becomes a bit old, it's not updated even more. So time is crucial. So what we try to do here is to have different measures to prevent and also to reduce long-term unemployment. And then one way, not the only way, not the only solution, but one way trying to help to solve the problem. And the problem in this case then is that, okay, we have a situation in the northern part of Sweden where there are new large establishments taking place, new jobs are growing. We need to supply with skilled labor to the northern part of Sweden. But we also have a situation then that many that are unemployed at the moment doesn't entirely then fit this requirement. They don't have the in-demand skills altogether. So we need to find a way of solving this problem. And what we have done then is to have this new project called the Relocate Project. And this is a collaboration between the Swedish Public Employment Service, regions, municipalities, and also local employers. And this is co-financed by the European Social Fund. It's just started. Due to the pandemic, it had to be delayed, but now it's started. And the long-term goal is then to create and to find a working method for moving job seekers from warm geographical areas with high unemployment to areas with high recruitment needs. And the target groups are those that are long-term unemployed, 18 to 50 years old, newly arrived immigrants, and also people with disabilities. And I should also mention here that this is also something new, because previously in Sweden we've had a trend that people move from the northern parts of Sweden to the southern parts of Sweden to finding new jobs. So this is the opposite direction. And as you all know, it's quite, it takes a lot of time actually, and also a lot of efforts maybe, because it could be an entire family that has to move in order to find this new job in the northern part of Sweden. So there has to be a lot of other support mechanism in place in order to be successful. So what have we found then up until now? Well, as I've stressed a couple of times here during my presentations, we have seen large green investments taking place in the northern part of Sweden, but they demand skilled labor. And we know also that they don't only look in Sweden, they look outside Sweden as well. So they can recruit from other parts of the world as well, because these are high demand for skilled labor taking place at that part in Sweden. And what I've also shown is that even though we have many registered unemployed, at the moment we have, I think the latest figure we have is 6.9% unemployed in Sweden. If you look at the numbers we produce at the Public Employment Service, 6.9%, and that is approximately, I think it's about 347,000 unemployed. But of those 347,000 unemployed, 100,000 have had a situation where they've been unemployed more than 24 months. And this group is still increasing. So that's the challenge we face, that even though we have unemployment and many of them have longer terms of time in unemployment, which means that this imbalance is then becoming even a bigger problem and an even bigger challenge for us to handle. And then one way, I said, not the final solution, but one way to try to curb this problem is to try to help now this relocate project to be as successful as possible, because there the participants are offered educational opportunities that are considered sufficient to obtain a future employment in this required establishments now that are taking place. And it's also another requirement is, of course, then that the participants should choose then to settle in a place outside commuting distance to be offered employment there. So they have to move permanently to this new job. And then, of course, we try to help them for the employers then to receive labor based on available skills. As I said, this is a relatively new project. It's been going on during this year. And so far, about 250 unemployed have been relocated. But what we believe and hope that in the coming years, that more people will be included in this project. So this is just a starting point, and we hope that it will be even more successful in the long run. So, thanks for the time, and I hope that this short presentation has been of interest to you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anders. I think this was of large interest. We heard already yesterday by, I think it was an input by the ILO, that there are, Sang-Yong Lee it was, he said there are big trends, and you gave us an example of one of these trends, greening the economy, but you also said that there are obviously imbalances on the labor market because we have a mismatch in the skills. Now, this session is not about skills. Skills is also a very important topic. Yes, so it brings imbalances, and we also heard already by Gerardo that you're working now on also big data to inform your counselors on how to upskill and how to uptrain. Now, first of all, looking into the audience, are there any questions to both the final panelists, or maybe also at home? No, I don't see that it is at home, but if there's any questions here. If not, then I would like to finalize this session with the final question on Slido, so you can take out your mobile phone once more. And this final question has to do with especially the final presentation, greening the labor market is one of the big trends. And we heard yesterday by Sang-Yong Lee that it's all about the big 3 Gs, digitalization, demographic change and decarbonization, so to say. And I would like to know from you and everybody in the audience and at home, what trends have the most impact on skills demand and new skills development in your country? Is it digitalization, is it decarbonization and demographic change? You can only pick out one answer. We know it's both 3 Gs, but we pick out one answer because I've already heard from several countries that, for example, decarbonization is not one of the trends that affect that particular labor market. So I would like to know which of yours is the most one, or I think you can pick out 2. I can't remember. And I heard that we have a question from the.
There is a question for Anders. How many people were relocated in Sweden? Could you just factual question? Thank you.
As I showed and as I mentioned, this project is very new. I mean, we just started this year, so up until I think, now I don't have the final figures. I think the ones I had, it was maybe 1 month old, and at the time we were 250 unemployed that were moved to the northern part of Sweden, so a part of this project.
Right. A further question from Sri Lanka.
Good afternoon, Mr. Anders. You mentioned that special needs disabled people. So our country, we face the very big problem, very difficult to motivate them. What are the strategies you use to motivate that community?
Yeah, I think we face the same problem as you. I mean, first of all, I think it's important that you try to localize, to find out if there is a problem or not. Is this a person in need of some kind of help? So I think that is the key, really, to try to solve and to find, is there a problem and can we help you? And then we have, of course, different tools. We have very, very good people working with disabilities that are professional and are very trained in those in that field, and they do remarkable work. But I think it takes time. It's quite time-consuming, but it's important and a very important objective of the Public Employment Service.
All right, let's have a look at the Slido answers, the results of the poll. Okay, it's digitalization, demographic change also, and decarbonization. Yes, that's the latter 3%. All right, I'm pretty sure that this is also a topic that we will further discuss within the WWC network, probably also in combination with the topic skilling and upskilling. So I would like to thank you, the presenters, and also Hind in the background. Yes, there you are again. Thank you very much for all your participation. Thank you very much for the audience, and I hope you've found enough information to take home with you and further stimulus for conversations in your public employment service. Thank you very much.